Superbad.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Tables, Athers and Chairs. Today I have a young man with me who's making quite the noise on the British scene. He is Superbad Kip Sabian.
Hey, Athers.
Yes, mate.
You know me well enough by now, mate.
Yeah?
When it comes to introductions, what happens?
Do you want to take it?
Yeah. And I'll show you sort of the best way to do it, okay? But I'll let you off because it is your podcast.
Thank you.
So introduce me as the heartbreaking, night-making, hunkiest hunk, handsome hustler, your girlfriend's favourite wrestler, Superbad Kip Sabian on Tables, Athers and Chairs, okay?
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, man. You're forgiven.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Cold, but apart from that, not too bad.
Don't get me started on the cold. It's horrid.
So yeah, let's just dive straight in. What are your earliest memories of professional wrestling?
God knows. I remember staying up for a pay-per-view. I couldn't tell you what pay-per-view it was, but Booker T was on it. So it's clearly a WCW pay-per-view. And my dad let me stay up. That's my first actual memory of wrestling. And then I remember I used to watch WWE after that, but then we didn't have Sky anymore. So the only way that I could watch WWE was on a Saturday morning on, it was Heat, something like that, Heat or something. But I remember I was a big WWE fan. So my dad was like, for your birthday, we're going to take you to go and see a live show. I was like, oh, this is sick. I'm buzzing for this. We go to the show, I don't know, I'm 8 or 9, something like this. And we turn up and I'm like, I don't recognise the logo. What is this? It's a WCW event. I have no idea who any of the WCW wrestlers are. However, I'm not going to tell my dad this because he's so happy he took me. And I remember seeing... Who did I see? I'm pretty sure that I saw Booker T again, which is why Booker T is in my all-time top 5 because he's the man.
Or as he'd say, his fave 5.
Too right. You can't see it right now, but I'm doing that 5 times. But yeah, and that's probably my earliest memory. But I don't really remember wrestling too much in my youth. I was a fan, but I wasn't a follow the storyline fan. I just used to watch it randomly, and me and my brother would always be out on our friend's trampoline, pretending to wrestle with each other. And then I just fell out of love with wrestling for a while, and then ended up coming back to it and started ye old backyard, the infamous backyarding.
Did you have a backyard name?
I did. Well, my original backyard name, this is an inside scoop. Very few people know this, but I was Tidal Wave because I was a big Hurricane fan. So clearly, if you're a fan of the Hurricane, in comes Tidal Wave. So I created him on one of the SmackDown games, I remember. And he looked terrible, but he was basically a blue version of the Hurricane. And then I wrestled for a while as Jet Kippen and Jet James, with Will Ospreay and Flash and Hitch and all of those guys, and then took it up as a profession, I guess.
So when did you start training? At what age?
It was 17-ish, I guess, 16, 17. I tried to train with XWA. So basically, I decided I wanted to train. So I looked online for, where can I train? And I came across the XWA school. So I contacted Dan Reed at the time. I think this was before he was the main owner. And he was like, okay, if you get a train to Ipswich, which I was from Norwich, so it's not that far, it's only one train, and we'll meet you there and then we'll go to training. So I'm absolutely buzzing for this sort of training experience. And then on the day, Dan sends me a message, sorry, the training school's closed down. I was like, no, are you serious? What? So then I went a little while with no training, and then a good friend of mine, Joe Penny, One Too Many, who is a referee at WAW, knew of our little yarding group and sent us a message saying we're running a training session before a show in Galston, which is my hometown. Do you want to come along? It's only this amount and you get some training. I was like, yeah, sure. So me and a few of my yarding mates went along. Really enjoyed it. And then they asked if we wanted to come back for their summer camp. And then, it went from there.
So who is it that trained you?
Soraya Knight, Ricky Knight, Roy, Zebra Kid back then, obviously Roy and Zach, the hooligans now. Obviously Raya was there as well, Paige. So sort of that group were my main introduction. But it was great, man. It was an old school British style as well. That's what I liked. Like, we got in there, we grappled, we fought each other. Every hit was legit. Like, it was like a proper way in. And like now I'm grateful that I got that way in to wrestling. And then now when I take training seminars or the school that I've got up in Batley, that's the same kind of mentality that I try and push on to people. But yeah, so I started there. I got a great story about when I first started, which again I've never really spoken about on a podcast or anything like this. But I went to my first sort of proper training school, this summer camp, and first day they said to us, right, put yourself in groups. So like flyers, technical, brawlers. So obviously being the sort of little backyard kid that I was like, oh, I'm obviously a high flyer, like I'm a cruiserweight. However, if you watch me work now, you can see that I'm not really a flyer. But back then I was. And they paired us up with someone else in another group. So I had this pairing, and he was like, what can you do? So I said all my stupid, ridiculous moves. We put a 5-minute match together, went out and did the match, and everything went wrong. Everything went wrong. I did a top rope Rana, he'd never taken one. We landed really funny, he nearly broke his neck. Afterwards, Soraya or Julia sat me down in front of the entire class and tore me a new one. Basically, I'm assuming at that point it was, and we've obviously spoken about it since and we laugh about it now, but because I was an egotistical little backyarder who thought I knew more than I did, it was a knock down a peg. So I got torn an absolute new one in front of everyone. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. She then put me in with a guy called Scott Fusion, who was one of their main sort of heavyweights at that time, and said, right, I want you to do another match with Scott. So I went away with Scott and we had the most basic match ever. We got in there and clearly there'd been a little word of, right, rough him up a little bit, and he beat the crap out of me. It came to his finisher, which at the time was a wheelbarrow German, and he was quite short but he was quite big, so it was a real whiplash kind of German. And we went to do it and Julia goes, no, that's enough. I then went, no, just give me it anyway. He gave me the German, 1, 2, 3. I get another bit of a bollocking, sit there for the rest of the session just embarrassed. Gets the next day, because they were like a 3-day in a row sort of full day training. Gets the next day, I turn up, Julia comes straight over to me, gives me a hug and says, you've got my respect now, because she didn't think I was going to turn up. She thought that was going to be me gone, but because I came back the next day and ever since she's been like one of my closest friends in wrestling and obviously mentor. But yeah, so that's my introduction into pro wrestling, I guess. And since then it's been brilliant.
So I take it you started at WAW?
Yeah, I certainly did. Back in the Knight dynasty.
Can you remember your first match was against?
It was like a multi-man, but like a gauntlet version. So it was like, actually it was more of a handicap. I think it was like maybe like 5-on-1 against Carl Kramer, the Barbarian, who was obviously a big lad. And I came in with my E-Lucha tights and borrowed kick pads, which I think I borrowed from Will years ago, and a vest top. Skinny kid, massive blonde fringe going as well, like the epitome of scene. And went in there and I think I hit like 3 drop kicks in a row and then took a massive like flapjack and then lost from there on. But I always remember as he like pushes me up for the flapjack, like almost hitting the ceiling, because like I was so small, like I was like, I don't know, 5'6", 5'7", like under 9 stone easy. Like I was easy to throw around. Like back then I think that's why guys liked to wrestle me, because they could literally just throw me around as much as they wanted. And then now I'm not exactly the biggest guy, but I think I sometimes forget that I'm not that small kid anymore.
So how did you find WAW on the whole?
I loved it. Like, the thing with Norwich is very out of the way in the country, and the fan base themselves are a very core like we like to say, old school style fan base where it's almost like a territory.
Yeah.
And it still is to this day. Like, it's one of the rare places where it's still a territory. And like, I got the chance there for 6 odd years before I moved to hone my craft there before eventually spreading my wings and breaking out, etc. And I don't think I could have hoped for anything more. I mean, at the time, obviously, all I wanted to do was be everywhere. But I now am happy that it took longer for me to actually get out there. Oh, I've just seen a Minnesota Vikings t-shirt. Boo, get out now.
Who do you follow?
Leafs, brother.
I better not mention I'm a Raiders fan then.
Oh, what? Get out now. Leave.
So, who would you say, like, when you were in WAW, what was the best experience or best match that you had when you were there?
Tagging with Brad. So, very early on, they teamed me and Brad Slayer together as special edition because we both liked the same bands, had the same haircut. Me and Brad became friends instantly. Like, as soon as we started training, we became like instant best mates. And I think it really helped us as a team because we had that natural kind of chemistry going. So obviously I spent a lot of time tagging with Brad. Brad eventually ended up getting an injury on his knee. And prior to that, the only time I'd really done much single stuff was right at the start or when I was yarding. So it was kind of a shock for me at that point to go, oh damn, I've got to transition into being a singles wrestler now after years of being predominantly a tag team. The best match we ever had came later, which was, I want to say 2016, maybe 15. But it was me and Brad versus the Hooligans, and we were on last, and the Hooligans were over as hell because it's Norwich and Roy and Zach are like the most over thing going. And we started the match and we got booed a little bit. So like they introduced us and we got like a bit of a boo. They introduced the Hooligans, they got a big sort of cheer. By the end of the match, like we got like a standing ovation. They then gave us the big speech about how good we were, which was quite a big moment for me and Brad as well, because obviously coming into it, they were like the guys that were always one step above us. And then when they started tagging, because we tagged before them, but when they started tagging, they were still always like the top babyface team of the Hooligans, special edition of like the stand-ins. We're like the reserves, we're waiting. Do you know what I mean? We still got our opportunities, but it wasn't that. So then to have that moment was probably the best match that we had there. But there were loads of great matches, man, but it's just finding them back now. Like Alex Young's another like great worker. I had some really great matches with him. He did 5-star the other day. Ricky Knight Jr., we had some good ones. We had a really good one from Epic Studios that I just can't seem to find anywhere. So if anyone can find that, please let me know.
You talked about branching out from WAW.
Yeah.
Where was the first place that you went to after you did that?
I mean, while I was still living in Norwich, because that was the problem, was because I was living in Norwich, it was hard for people to take a chance and bring me on my own to all these places because, again, it costs a lot more money to bring someone. So I had a few with places like DOA, Fight Factory in Lincoln. I had a few for them. RCWA, which again was Will's promotion from when we used to do it, and then it transitioned into being a sort of pro promotion, which is still going really well now. But they were like the main ones that I'd do stuff for. I went to France and wrestled for ECTA over there, where me and Brad won their French tag championships, and I think I won their junior championship as well. Because there was a working relationship with the WW guys and the French company. But apart from that, I'd not really been in the wrestling fans' eyes, like the indie kind of eyes. So I guess the first place after would have been, I want to say like Southside maybe? Yeah, I think it must have been, it was like Southside or Hope, or both kind of very close together, I think.
I was going to say the first place I remember seeing you was the first Lucha Forever show in Birmingham.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I think I'd have done...
I believe you were the Hope King of Flight champion at the time.
So I'd gone to Southside and done the ladder match where I joined GBH, and then I'd gone to Hope and on my debut won the Kings of Flight tournament. And then it was like pretty much straight after that then Lucha Forever started, which was some of the best times that I've had in wrestling. Still to this day, I miss Lucha Forever.
I'll be honest, I think a lot of fans miss Lucha Forever.
Man, like, this is what I was saying to Ryan. Like, I always say to Ryan and Will, but like, as much as like I'd had an opportunity to wrestle for these other places, Lucha was the first place that kind of went, right, what can you do? Show us what you can do. We know you can do it, go out and do it. And they really gave me the ball to run with. Like, the self-introduction I'd done prior to that, but it was there that it really kind of became a stable thing. The Superbad thing as well, like, I'd been doing that for a while, but then at Lucha Forever it became a thing. And like, I was new to the whole like Twitter buzz as well. That was the thing. So like, because of these places I've worked, it wasn't really an internet kind of crowd. So as soon as we did that one in Birmingham, I looked at my phone and I was like, oh my god, what's a GIF? Like, how have they managed to do this? Like, I can now see me like 5 minutes after I've done it, because they were like live GIFing and stuff. And it was just really good. Like, I think that was, and like Ryan as well, like, gave me the opportunity as the first ever Lucha Forever match to have the mic, which is something that I've always like wanted to be a mic guy, but I'd always been a little bit dubious of it or nervous to do it, or I'd not been given the opportunity. Like, it's very rare a promoter will go, here you go, have the mic, you've got like 3 minutes, like, cut a promo. So,
would you say it's the strongest part of your game?
Now. Back then, I don't think it was. But it was that show where then I did the mic work there. And I remember coming back after the match and going, okay, I think I'm onto something here. Like, I'm onto the character. Because the character was still developing back then. It was more like pretty boy ladies man back then. And then since then, it's slowly developed into, I don't know how to describe it. I'd say, like, Superbad is how I'd describe it. Like, it's really weird. But yeah, that was like the first time that part of my game became apparent. And then from there on, all I wanted to do was constantly go, right, how can I now get my mic work to the next level, or my character to the next level? And like, it was less focusing on, oh, I want to do the coolest moves, and more like, right, what can I do that no one's doing that's going to make people go, I want to see Kip wrestle? Because I'd been doing all the stupid moves, and I'd get like that was sick, but I'm not a Will Ospreay. Like, I'm not a Ryan. I'm not one of those guys that can do these crazy moves, picture perfect first time. But I think for a long time I was battling with myself, going, you have to be that guy. And then I think it was that show where I then sat there and went, okay, you don't have to try and be someone that you're not, just be this character.
Speaking of being someone that you're not, how close is the real you to the character Kip Sabian?
Ask my girlfriend. No, so like,
it's not you turned up to 11.
But this is what I mean. Like, it sounds cliche to a degree, but it's kind of like all of the, because everyone can get like pissed off and become a dick at some point. Like, everyone does it, right? It's that side of me, and then just turn it up like loads. And like, it's funny because, so I'll do the gimmick, and then I'll go to the merch table, or I'll be chatting with fans or whatever, and it's hilarious how, if they've not seen me before or they've not approached me at merch, they're a bit dubious, because it's like, oh, this guy's an absolute dick, and then they meet me and it's like, oh, wait a second. Like, I don't know, like, I'd like to say that it's none of me, but it is a part of me that I just jump into, and then since then it's just become all these little mannerisms that are more than that. And then, to be honest, there's a lot of influences that I've taken from other wrestlers as well, like subliminally. Like, Kris Travis is like, or has been, one of my biggest influences / idols since I started like pro wrestling, and I came across Trav and Kirby. Which is really funny, because me and Kirby, like, we were driving together the other week, and we're like really good friends now, and said how great, Kirby said to me the other day, and tweeted about it, saying how good it would be for me and him to become a team. And for me, like, I said it to Kirby, for me that was like a massive like compliment, because it means that I'm doing something right in sort of the Trav do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to copy Trav, but subliminally I can't help but idolise and draw inspirations from Travis's game.
Recently, you made your debut at Progress. How did that go for you?
I did. Yeah, it was surreal, man. Like, for years, I'd said how I wanted to work for Progress since, like I said to Glenn, like, since chapter 2. So I watched Will and one of our friends, Alex Esmail,
Velocity Vipers,
who started tagging at Lucha Britannia together, and I watched them debut against the London Riots, and instantly I was like, oh man, this show looks so good, I really want to be a part of it, but I didn't know how to back then. And then I got sort of caught up in the stuff I was doing, but I still always wanted to debut for Progress, and like I'd sent them loads of messages like over the years, and there'd never really been an opportunity. And then I met Glenn at a Lucha show, I think, and he gave me some really good sort of feedback and said he really liked the character and he'd be in touch in the future. And I just took it as, that's nice. At least he's giving me a compliment, but they've got their guys they're using. And then out of the blue, I got an email from John. Are you available? Let me check my diary. Yeah. And then, and it happened. And that was the first time I'd wrestled with Eva. And like the crowd seemed to really like go with the gimmick as well. And yeah, it was a really fun experience, mainly for me on a personal level to say, okay, I've finally got the Progress debut under my belt, and hopefully things come from it, but if they don't, then at least I can tick it off as, okay, I've wrestled for them now.
Totally. What would you say is like the most difficult part of the job of being a professional wrestler? Apart from the cold dressing rooms. Damn it, you've taken it from me. I don't know, man, like, it's long, so like long hours, which sounds silly because you're in the ring for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, but like, it's getting there. Obviously, I love it when I'm there, because obviously you've got the boys in the locker room, and it's that kind of team mentality, and that's my favourite thing to be around, is around the boys and the fans, etc. But it's long hours on the road, getting in at like 3 or 4 in the morning, going to sleep, waking up the next day, dragging yourself out of bed, going to the gym, then heading off to the show. Like, it sounds silly because I went from back in Norwich or Yarmouth, whatever. I was a call centre manager, working Monday to Friday and wrestling on the weekends. But I feel more tired now that everything's on wrestling now that I'm doing it full time, because you're just constantly focusing on what you're doing. I don't know, man. Like, I think there's just a lot of hard bits, but it's easily outweighed by how great it is. Right, want to quickly end this with a word association game.
Hit me up, brother.
Right, and I'm going to cover these names so you can't see them.
Okay.
Damien Dunn.
Love.
Drew Parker.
Hair.
Good shout. Flash Morgan Webster.
Napalm.
El Ligero.
Stop tweeting that you beat me.
Nathan Cruz.
Professional.
Chris Brooks.
Hair.
Eddie Dennis.
I keep wanting to say hair because I saw a video of Eddie the other day and his hair looked really good. I watched the Welsh thing, the Welsh BBC documentary, and he just got a sweet fade. I don't know. Eddie is beautiful. There you go, that'll do.
Jack Sexsmith.
Oh. Wrestler.
Cara Noir.
Oh, egg.
Sarai Knight.
Hard as fuck.
WAW.
Home.
Southside.
GBH.
Hope.
Mansfield. What? Name a venue.
Progress.
Achievement.
Lucha Forever.
Oh. Best.
Kip Sabian.
Your girlfriend's favourite wrestler.
And finally, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Oh man, I don't know. I'd like to be still doing what I'm doing, but obviously have branched out into other areas. I mean, Japan is a big thing for me. I've always wanted to go to Japan. I got into Noah very early when I started pro wrestling. Noah was a big influence to me, so Noah is probably like up there. I'd like to go to America. I'd love to do a WrestleMania weekend. I mean, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. Like like IPW at the moment under Billy Wood is killing it. So like, I'm really happy to be a part of what he's doing there, and he seems to put a lot of faith in me, like Ryan and Will did with Lucha. So hopefully they grow as well to the point where they're at the top, because I'm really enjoying what I'm doing there. I don't know, man. I just want to keep wrestling and having these great chats with you in a pub.
Nice one. I mean, that's a great point to end it. Superbad.
Thank you, Athers.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for letting me have a go in your chair as well in just before we filmed this.
Not a problem. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
Damn. Oh, god damn.